Hello.
Hi.
Oh, how are you doing?
Okay.
Uh,
Good
okay,
evening.
before we even start, I would like to apologize for the last time. I was using my friend's
No,
Wi-Fi and
it's
I
good.
didn't know.
It's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. There's a bit interruption in your voice, but I think everything is fine. I'm able to understand what you're saying. Can you hear me properly?
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Um, so my name's Mike. What do I call you?
I'm Pranjal. You can call me Pranjal.
Sorry.
Pranjal.
Can you
Yeah,
say it again?
it's
Sorry.
Pranjal. Yeah, Pranjal.
Franzin.
Pranj. Yeah.
Franjin. Franjin. Okay. Okay. Right. Well, my debate is Noah could not have built that ark thing that the Bible talks about. And I think there's a big movie just been made about it with Russell Crowe. So, you know, that makes it even more unbelievable. My contention is that Noah, even given lots of time and help, could never have built the ark, which just to check the size, etc. I've got it down here. I'm looking at Wikipedia, obviously, so don't shoot me for that. 50 cubits in width and 30 cubits in height, which is supposed to be 450 feet by 75 by 45 feet, something like that. Basically, it's damn big, and I don't think he could have done it. So, passing over to you.
Okay. Before we go any further, I would like to make my stand clear. What we are discussing here. We are not discussing the story, right? As far as the story part is concerned, I don't think it's possible, right? There are multiple flaws, but we are not discussing that. What we are discussing right now is whether it is conducive, whether it is possible and feasible enough for Noah to build an ark like that, whatever with all the details that have been given in the story. You know, so as I mentioned in my comment previously, if we assume all the data that is given in the story as correct, so in that particular case, I think it's perfectly possible to build an arc like that. And why? Well, I'll expound on that. So first of all, we can take the dimensions of the arc. It's 6:1, right? Well, I like to tell you that I'm engineer, and I think more or less I do have an idea that what are the prerequisites to build a ship like that. So first of all, we take the dimensions. The dimension ratios in 6:1. You can hear me properly, right? Okay.
Yes.
You sure?
Could I ask you what shape would the vessel be?
I'm sorry.
What sort of shape would the ark have been? Can you just describe, just very briefly, the sort of
Well,
shape?
that was an arc. That was a ship. You can actually I have the dimension, exact dimension that is given in the story. That was 450 feet long by 75 feet wide by 45 feet high. So if you calculate the volume, that will come out to be 15 lakhs 18,750 cubic feet, right? And I have all the actual calculations done. I have done my homework pretty well. I have calculated whether it is engineering. If we take the engineering perspective, whether it is possible to build an arc like that, and whether such a shape would be balanced when it is in when it will be in a body of water like that. So if we take the dimensions in particular, 6:1 dimension that is given in the story. So, well, that's that is the best ratio for a modern shipbuilding. You can actually Google it if you want to. And modern stability test, we have different softwares here at my college, and I'm sure they are still used in the modern level. Stability tests have shown that the design is stable for waves up to 200 feet high, right? and construction was so robust that I mean the arc would have rotated 90 degrees and still righted itself.
Okay.
You can check it in the Google if you want.
I think
I've also checked it. So I think as far as construction part is concerned, yeah, it's definitely possible.
I think we might have to make our dialogue a little bit shorter, if you're okay with that. Could I just ask you very briefly what shape
Yeah,
would
sure.
this arc have been? Can you just give me a very clear, concise answer on that? I don't, nothing sophisticated, but just generally, what shape would it have been?
Well, it has to be a boat of the modern. I mean, has it has to be the shape of a modern ships.
Okay, okay,
You can take an
okay.
example of like that.
Right,
I don't
okay,
know
right.
exactly how
Shape
it
of a
looks
modern
like.
ship.
Yeah,
Okay. So, what sort
to
of
sustain.
timber, what sort of wood
Yeah.
would this ship have been made out of?
Well,
Did you hear that
I beg.
question?
So, uh, I'm actually, sir. I think we are going beside the point. I beg your pardon, sir. I
No,
beg your
no, no.
pardon. But we are not discussing that.
Yes.
We are
So, can you
discussing
tell
that
me,
whether it is
please? No,
possible.
no, no, no. So, can you please
We are
tell
discussing
me
the possibilities.
what sort of trees, what sort of wood would it have been made out of?
Yeah. Because I'm
Okay,
not
right.
able to answer
Okay,
that
that's
question
fine.
perfectly
Okay.
because,
So,
but I
if
don't
it's a
think,
modern
I beg your pardon.
If it's a modern
You just
ship,
let that
okay.
up.
I'm just going to hold up a picture of something I hope you're familiar with. It is it is the method of ship
Yeah, sure.
construction, which has been used for many centuries,
Mm-hmm.
using traditional materials. But we
Mm-hmm.
can't include steel because Noah would not have had access to steel bracing. So the ship would have had to be braced using traditional methods. Now, the picture I'm going to hold up is this, which this is kind of just generally, just the construction, the sort of skeleton of a ship, and this is how a ship gets its strength, primarily from these ribs here, okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
which give structure to the ship.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me to get those sort of ribs in a ship, what sort of trees would you have to use?
Yeah. Uh, I think you again asking the same question, sir. But
Well,
I
no,
think
we
we
are
are not
discussing
discussing
that.
that.
We
We
are
are discussing the
discussing
possibility, right?
the
Uh,
practicalities of Noah building this ship.
yeah, sure. Uh, so as far as the wood is concerned, I think there are multiple woods available to build a big ship like that. We can also
But
use metal, but
Noah wouldn't have had
this is
access to metal. It would have to be wood. So we
that's
cannot include steel or any sort of.
I, I'm
Okay.
knowledgeable about that. I'm
So
knowledgeable. I know,
what
I know.
sort of?
Uh, the metal wasn't used. Actually, the wood only. Yeah. Well, we can actually
Well, we
Google
don't
that
need
because
to,
I'm not
because
known about the
I can tell you I
known
can
to
tell
all
you what you would
what
have
sort
to
of.
use. We don't need to Google it because I'm from England. I mean, England is the country that pioneered
Mhm.
uh, large shipbuilding. And this is how it managed to defeat the
Yeah.
Vikings, the Danish invaders, etc., by building big ships. Now you can only build big ships like that if you've got oak trees. You can do it with teak as well, but primarily, you'd need big trees. And the reason you need big oak trees is because they're the sort of trees which provide the strength. And in order to, this is how the shipwrights actually choose the parts of the ship. I don't know if you can all sort of see this here, but basically, this is a shipwright who has a template here, and he is choosing a part of a bough of a tree, which he's going to make the ribs, one of the ribs out of. Now, the shipwrights would actually, when they built a ship like this, they would actually label the trees in the forest before the trees were actually felled, because they would decide which parts of the tree were going to be used for different parts of the boat. So in effect, you actually designed your boat, your ship, around the sort of trees that you had available. And if somebody said to you, "Oh, I want a bigger boat than that," the shipwrights would have said, "Well, I'm sorry, but you can't have one because trees don't grow that big." So you are actually constrained, which of course is why in the part of the world which we are told Noah lived in, that part of the world only built little galleys, little rowing galleys, because they only had very short, stubby trees. And that's the only type of craft they could build for many, many centuries until the advent of steel.
Okay. Well, what I think is you're saying that it is not possible to build such huge ship because we were bereft of such big trees at that time, right? If we really want to make big boats, we need big trees as well, which through which we can make rips
Yes.
of the ships. So as far as this, yeah. So I think, sir, we can always use different parts of the a part of trees, and we can subsequently join them up. Isn't it possible? As far as we have uh, waterproof glues available, or we can also join them up by the means of binding them up, or maybe we can just use pieces of woods and we can make holes and then join them up. I mean, there are
No,
multiple options available, and
you, I'm
ship design
sorry,
is
but you can't do
something.
that. You can't do that because the shipwrights are constrained. It is not possible, and it has been proved in history that you cannot just simply scale everything up. You cannot do that. There was a famous case where a king of England, I think it was Henry III, did exactly this to his shipwrights. He said, "I want you to build me the biggest ship that has ever sailed the seas." So this is in medieval times, and they said, "Sire, we cannot do this because we haven't, trees don't go that big. It is not as
Yeah,
simple
yeah.
as this, sire." Nonetheless, he made them do it, basically. So they had to do what you've just advocated, which is to join lots of smaller pieces of wood together and try and make this big ship for the king, which they did. They floated the ship and it broke up with it. The first proper sea that it came to, it broke up. Okay. And that is exactly what would have happened to Noah's Ark if you had tried to build a ship of that size without oak trees. You would have had to use the trees that grew in that part of the world, which are short, stubby trees. It would not be seaworthy.
Okay, well, sir, the ship that Noah built was not for sailing, right? It wasn't supposed to
It
travel
doesn't matter.
around some part of the world.
It doesn't matter.
It was just
It
to
doesn't matter.
sustain.
You can't.
Yeah,
If you put sails on a ship, it's not going to make the water calmer, is it? It doesn't matter. In fact, having sails on a ship would actually make
it does
if
matter.
a big vessel is literally floating in the water, then it's actually more susceptible to storms because you cannot head it into the waves. You have to, it would be battered on the
I beg your
side.
pardon. It's
If you look at the new film, with the Russell Crowe film, where I've seen this little snippet of it. It shows that he's built a square ark, okay, out of short pieces of timber. Well, a square vessel like that would just be, there's no strength in it. It would just be battered to pieces. So I'm afraid the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, is just not practical to do.
well, sir, I beg to disagree because there was a huge what I say, a huge flood was going on, and it was when your ship is traveling and when it is continuously coming in contact with the streams of water, then it's susceptible to more damage. Obviously, I mean, the direction of the ship obviously contributes to the force that is being imparted on the ship by the means of streams of water. So yeah, obviously in that case it has to be more strong. But if you're just supposed to stand on a single point and somehow survive through the freeze, in that particular case, I think uh, the ship construction is pretty conducive, and I can actually prove it by the means of different calculations. And if I just take up the calculation part, I don't know if it's a very nice idea. This is calculation at a debate, but as far as the volume of the ship is concerned, I can actually compare them with the in terms of boxes to make it more simple. So if we calculate exactly that whether it was possible to contain all these animals on this ark was not or not, so we can actually do that. If we calculate the box cars, that will I mean I'm calculating each volume in terms of box cars, right? And each box car would be 2669 cubic feet of space. So right now let's start off with the calculation. We can take average size. Okay, first of all, I have to ask you whether you are concerned with the space or not. I mean, whether it is possible to take up all the animals on this ship or not. If you think it's not possible, then I can
Sorry,
prove it.
can you just repeat that last question, please? I'm not quite getting what you said. Is it?
Yeah. Okay. Is this your concern that taking all the animals that we mentioned in the story on an arc like that was an
Well,
issue or not? If
we're not
that's an
talking
issue, I
about the
can do that.
animals. I've specifically avoided talking about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I could have made this a far more, easily provable debate. From my point of view, because I've said, I have specifically said it is about, Noah could not have built the ark. That's all. Okay, so to wander off now into debating about whether he could put animals on board, etc. No, I'm afraid that's not part of this debate. So we must stick to the core of what the title says, please. Thank you. And I mean, it was good actually. I heard a little bit better then when you put your microphone here. That did actually sound a bit better. So if you could try and do that.
Yeah, I think the point of contention is whether it is possible to build a
Yes,
ship
of
like that.
course.
But sir, my point is again the same. My point is again the same. I think we are not building a ship to sail around the world, right? I mean, there was no land available because whole of the world was already sunk, and there were no floors available. I mean, we were just supposed to survive on the mass of the water, right? And as far as that perspective is concerned, I think it
Really?
was perfectly possible with a ship like that. And you can always take pieces of woods and join them up, and you can always travel through the sea of water, through the sea. I mean. So if that's possible, then certainly building a ship like that and surviving through the phase is perfectly possible.
Well,
This is
I can
what
only
my argument is.
disagree. I mean, if you had any knowledge about seafaring, I think you'd see why. Um, the fact that it's not built to sail around the world is not the issue. I mean, yes, of course, it makes a
Yes.
difference to to what you have to build, but the ship will, I'm afraid to say, it will take a huge vessel like that and it will pound it. It will do exactly what it likes with it. And the fact that you've got no control over it, because if you say there's no sails, there's no means of propulsion, you cannot head it into the wind, you cannot head it into the waves. I mean, ordinarily, I don't know whether you would know, but if you're sailing a ship in anything of a sea, you have to point the vessel into the waves because that is the strongest point, and the waves will then roll down the side of the ship, and that is why the ship is built as it is, that sort of shape. If the ship is sort of what is termed broadside on, and if it has no means of propulsion, then it will turn broadside on. Then you're exposing the entire flank of your it's what they call beam ends on, and the seas will just pound and pound, and they've got a huge, enormous surface area to pound against. A ship that's built, you know, without any sort of serious structural um, internal engineering, and without massive oak trees that first of all would not have grown in that area, and secondly, even if they had, Even in England, they couldn't have built ships that big. It's just not possible. Let alone, I mean, I'm not actually sure what the Bible says how long he had to do it, but what was it? One bloke and 8 of his sons, was it? As their wives bringing them tea and biscuits at at break time, sort of thing. I'm sorry, but come on. I mean, let's. You say you are an engineer, is that right? Yet you really believe that was achievable?
Also, my only concern is this, that we are just supposed to build this ship, which is strong enough, which is robust enough to survive through the face. As
150 days. Yeah.
you again took up the story part by you.
150
I'm
days.
sorry.
150 days through. I mean, and let's not pretend that this is like just floating on a mill pond. The sea levels rose to covered the mountains, which, even if you take into account the growth of Mount Everest, which I think is, I don't know, is probably a few feet per year. Mount Everest is now over
We cannot
20,000
take
feet high.
part.
Let's
That's
even say that it was, Everest was 15,000 feet high. Notwithstanding, of course, where the hell did all that water come from? But let's say, yes, okay, all that water came from somewhere. You don't think the seas might have been pretty turbulent for quite a long time? All that water coming out of, I think the Bible says that it's supposed to come out of the earth's core. Well, you just fill a bath and look how turbulent that is, and then scale all that up. Look at the hurricane that's just happened in Texas, where we had a sea surge. It's enormously destructive, and I'm afraid that a huge piece of, effectively, a sort of a huge, massive bathtub made out of bits of wood, it's not going to last. Sorry.
So you're taking the story part again. As far as the story is concerned, I think this is something that our thoughts will chime in at, because I certainly do not approve of the story. I don't think it's possible. The different, but what I've done to, what the debate is all about is to discuss whether the building ship was possible, how the flood come, and what they exactly did to build the ship, and what kind of of the practices they performed in order to build the ship is certainly out of the point. So
No.
what I'm saying is, how the flood happened and what subsequently happened is something that is
Look,
besides the
you
point.
can't. I think
So I
I
beg your pardon,
don't
but
think it's fair
I
to
think
say that, really. As in, like, yeah, I disagree with the whole thing, but it's still possible to build a ship. My thing is, to build that ark thing, and part of that is to say that that ark, the Bible tells us, did actually survive. So, my contention is, it's not just
yeah.
building a lump of wood that you could call a ship. It's not a ship. It's the context is it's that ark thing, which of course is part of the story that that did survive 150 days at sea. So that is what I'm saying. You could not have built a ship that fits in with that requirement.
Yeah. Well, sir, you're talking about a lump of wood. Well, if we join some lump of wood and you just
It's not
randomly
a
throw it in
ship. It's
water,
just
that will float,
then it's not a
right?
ship. It is just
And
a big. Then it's
yeah, yeah,
just a big
it's not a,
model. That's
but
all it is. It's just an artifact. Okay, but
yeah,
that's not what we're debating. We are debating that it's building the ark, which is mentioned in the Bible, as a seaworthy vessel. Okay.
yeah, sure, we are. Well, so how he made the ship is certainly not the point of concern. But one thing is for sure, that since the build was completely made up of wood and there was no metal involved, so obviously all the material that is available on the ship, especially which was the constituent of the ship, was perfectly able to stand on a body of water. Right? The density of the wood is lighter than that of water, relative density. So certainly, I think if you make a random body out of wood, then that will float. But here, how he made the ship is not our concern. The concern is whether it was possible to build the ship. So, well, how he did it, I don't know. But if he did,
Well,
then certainly it was all possible to,
well, why are
survive
you
through the phase.
debating this? But if you're saying you don't know how he built it, then what's the, you've taken on this debate. I've said it's not possible to build it, and you're saying, yeah, I don't know how he would have done it. So where's your argument?
So actually, what I'm trying to
Magic.
prove is if you build a ship like that, if if you make a ship like that, if you build a ship like that using the woods or maybe any other material, that in that particular case, whether it will be possible to survive through the phase and whether that particular body that you have built will be able to stand on a body of water. So including all the animals and everything. So this is what I'm trying to prove. How he did it and what kind of practices he performed is certainly out of option that I've already included in my comment when I previously took up the debate.
But
So
hang on,
I
you
think
keep
this is what we are discussing. We are going to
sorry,
give
you
articles
keep
here.
referring to some comment that
If he
you've
built,
written. For the you're going to have to actually say what that is, because we're in this debate now, and it's no use sort of saying, oh, I wrote some notes earlier. Can you please reiterate what you said in those comments?
yeah. Actually, sir, if you really want to go into design part of that how he actually built the ship and how the engineering were done, how he designed the ship, and there are multiple questions you can get into. So that is certainly not a point of concern. We can actually discuss how he built the ship, what kind of wood he used, what kind of material he used, what kind of glues and different things like that.
Yeah.
So that is certainly not the point
Yes,
of
it is
concern.
though.
If he
No, it
built the
is the
ship,
point of.
I mean,
This is the point of the debate. This is the whole thing. I'm not. I don't do religion. I'm not into that. Okay. It is. We are. This is a discussion about the practicalities of building such an enormous vessel.
well, that is perfectly possible, sir. I mean, I'm not known to the word that could be used, but certainly for the long time before the metal we have discovered, we have been using wood, right? And joining them up in order to give in a proper structure to our body so that it can survive through the phase like this, where there was not any possibility of uh, you know uh, just going and there wasn't any possibility of getting a head-on collision from some solid part because everything else was already in the mass of water. So the only thing that was available apart from the ship was just water, and nothing else was able to be seen. So this is what I'm saying that the bone of the ship, the bone of the whole construction was just to survive through the phase, just to somehow survive during which the water gets settled down. So this is what my argument is, and I think we are little getting into construction part, and there could be multiple
Okay.
questions that
So
could be asked
so just just
as you
just
take up
just
the
just
construction point
clarify
of view.
things. Okay. Okay. So you are saying that it is possible to bolt and glue and join small bits of wood together to make an enormous vessel, which of course would hold colossal
Just
weight
to survive through the
with
phase,
all these
just to
animals,
survive, not
just
not
to
for sailing, not
survive
for sailing.
uh, a hugely
Yeah.
turbulent ocean. Okay, which it would be. It's not a mill pond.
Turbulence
It is not a
happening.
mill pond. Believe me, I've been
Turbulence.
at sea. I've been at sea. Just off the coast of England. I went to Greece recently, and the sea on the best of days can be pretty decent swell, choppy. I think anyone who's done a bit of kayaking at sea or sailboating or anything would agree with me on that. It's very rarely is it a mill pond. He's going to survive for 150 days in this immense ocean that is literally boiling with activity because of all this sudden the rainfall and all the water coming out of it. So you're saying you don't know how he would have done it, but probably you say probably by putting bits of wood together, etc. I have demonstrated that shipwrights it has been proven over the centuries that shipwrights cannot do this. They cannot make a ship that is shipworthy. I've also quoted you a historical fact whereby shipwrights have tried to make a ship and it has just broken up straight away. Okay. But you are still contending You won't name what sort of wood they use. You won't go into any sort of details about what construction they use. You haven't even made the claim of something like, oh well, yes, there were massive oak trees growing time, and of course the flood got rid, destroyed all those trees, etc. And of course all the skills that the shipwrights had, all those were lost. You haven't even said any of that. You're just saying that yes, well, I don't know how it would have been done, but it could have been done. Well, I'm sorry, but that really is no argument. I'm sorry.
Uh, so, as far as I, uh, I think this is something that we disagree of. That when we talked about taking up the topic of the debate, we were taking up because we will what we were concerned with, that if you somehow build a body like that and
Somehow,
put it in the water
somehow,
where it will be
how
stable,
how you
right?
need this.
So if you take up the construction, I beg your pardon, but if you take the construction part, there are multiple questions that could be asked. You're getting into designing part. That is, I mean, there are huge multiple engineering questions that could be asked from that perspective. So, as far as this issue is concerned, I think the only bone of the construction is to survive somehow. You can take an example of you can just bind some lump of wood together, and if you throw in the water, then it float. Then why it is not possible to build a body like this which can sustain a multiple species of the earth while floating on the water at the same time? So I think it's perfectly possible, but well, the topic is something of a contention here.
Well,
I'll pass it on to
okay.
you.
With the greatest respect, you said you're in engineering. Is that right? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. We are not told how to build ship
You're in
basically. We are chemical
engineering.
engineers,
Okay. Well,
but I know to the theories why the
sorry,
ship floats.
sorry. There's bits I'm not quite getting of what you're saying, but as I gather, you're in engineering yourself. Yet you're not giving me any details. You're just saying, to get this thing to float somehow. I mean, that's not the way an engineer talks. I mean, are you like involved in like building bridges and stuff? Because, uh, you know, with respect, I have to kind of say I don't think I'd really want to drive over one of your bridges if you kind of like, like, oh well, it'll seem, it'll be okay, you know. No, so I'm sorry, but you're not convincing me. This is not the sort of debate I really wanted, and I'm getting a little bit feeling a bit disconcerted, really, because I don't know whether you've really sort of thought about how you're going to counter my arguments. I mean, the debate title is perfectly clear. If you looked at my profile, you'd see that I don't do religion. It is a straightforward discussion about a man and his sons. They might have been very strong, possibly, but it is how would they have built this damn vessel?
Because the definition of art exactly is not defined. I mean, when when I read the story, the definition is not clearly defined. But what we can guess that from the story part is we were just supposed to make a body, right? I mean, it just, as I've already stated that, but I'm stating once more that it wasn't supposed to sail through the world. I mean, the ship was not needed to be have a robust structure so that it can sustain through the strong winds and turbulent flows that you're talking about. And moreover, on top of that, you were talking that uh, that flows in the sea, flows in the water. I don't know the exact word. This is something I'm really concerned with because I don't think it is given the story. This is some sort of information that you're making yourself up. And it is not given in the story anywhere that such huge waves will be coming over and your ship has to be very robust and very strong for that matter. There it doesn't matter how long or how robust the structure is.
Why? No. What? Because God would magic the seas to be calm? Is that part of your argument?
Well, sir, moreover, there isn't enough water which will.
You're not. You're not even saying such things as like, they had some sort of wonderful magical method of building ships then, where that no one else has ever realized, has ever sort of taken up. That it's a method which is which nobody else thought of, and this was lost with Noah. I mean, you're not even saying that. You're giving no details at all. And and this idea of like, it just has to sit on a piece of water. I mean, it's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Come on, everybody
whole
knows
story
that
was
seas
nonsense. I beg your pardon, but the whole story,
are not like that.
the life of Noah was given, the story was 420 years. How
Have you
many
ever
humans
have,
do you know have
have
such a long life? Even the largest, the greatest life that ever recorded is.
no. Look, we're not getting into that, okay? We're not discussing how old Noah was. I don't do all that nonsense, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been to sea
Just
yourself
giving an example.
in a small boat? Have you ever been to sea yourself in a small boat,
Yeah, yeah, I.
or a large boat for that matter? You have. Okay. What was the sea like? Was it like what we call a mill pond here in England? A mill pond
No,
is
certainly,
a very, very flat, calm piece of water
no, certainly not.
which has no movement.
No, certainly not, because
No.
you
So what was it like? What was the sea like when you were out at sea?
there is turbulence, sir, but it's not. I mean, that's subjective. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes the waves are going on.
Okay.
So
Right. Okay. So you're saying that, well, okay. So the whole of the ocean is even this, like, it's going to be calm for 150 days, even though we've had trillions and trillions of tons of water erupting from the Earth's core and falling from the skies. The sea is going to be calm for 150 days. Okay. Is that that's really as part of your argument?
no, see, I'm not saying that doesn't need to be strong enough to sustain even the slightest of the waves. What I'm saying that you know uh, it's it doesn't matter how strong a ship you build. If there are always you can I mean you can always assume a wave of water strong enough to turn it over, to topple it down. No, it's perfectly possible. So you just have to make while you're making a ship, you just have to make an estimation, just how strong the waves of water would be, how strong how robust its structure has to be to sustain through the waves, and what kind of waves it has to sustain, how much impact would be imparted on the body. So this is how we make the assumptions, and we calculate the tensile strength and all. But this is something that is this in particular piece of information is not given the story, that how the strength of what I mean how turbulent the waves would be, and what kind of condition would the art will have to sustain and all. So this is something I think we disagree of, and uh, I don't think, because this is the whole of the point, that is something that we disagree of. So I don't think it's worth continuing any further, because what I mentioned in my comment earlier is, if you build a body like that and you put it in the water, whether it will sustain or not. And I have mathematical proof, and I have proved that with all the data that's given in the story, it is perfectly possible to build a body which sustains in water. Now, because we do not.
Okay. So you're saying, hang on, you said it. So tell the audience your mathematical calculations then, just without really confusing us. Just prove your mathematical theory
Okay.
over this.
Well, that I can do. Well, as far as we take up the data that is given in the story, the art was 450 feet long by 75 feet wide and by 45 feet high. And that amounts to 15 lakhs 18,750 cubic feet, right? So just to make it simple, I'll calculate everything in terms of boxcars, right? So just to put that into perspective with it. And I'm assuming each boxcar would have volume of 2,669 cubic feet of space, right? So if we calculate this whole volume, that is of R, that will tend to amount to 569 modern railroad boxcars, right? And the average size, we can calculate the average size of animal that is on the earth. So if you calculate the average size of animal, that will come around to be smaller than a cat. but just to keep it safe, I'm taking it as a average size of an animal to be a sheep. So, well, the average double deck. I don't. Please tell me if I'm confusing it. You at any point, I'll just clarify up. So the average double deck store cars holds around 4 to 40 sheep. Just to calculate, I'm just comparing everything up. So our capacity would be around 569. If we multiply it to 40, then that will equate to 1,36,560 animals of that size, right? So, however, that's still not accurate or since there are birds and reptiles which will cover the volume much smaller than that. So let's we can actually double or triple the boxcars capacity for them. So we can actually take the volume double to that of 240, and that equates to around 480. So that includes all the birds, reptiles, and amphibians. So what is important that Noah had to take 2 or 7 of every kind of animals on the earth. It would only be necessary to bring representative of each kind, since
Okay. Look. No, listen. I'm gonna stop you there. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't wish to be rude, but okay. What I suggest you do is put that down in a comment under here later, so that the viewers can actually look at your calculations and decide for themselves. Now, I can't actually really hear properly exactly what you were saying there. I missed a lot of the details, but I think what you were trying to sort of do was to show how you could get all those animals into this arc.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're not discussing that. We're not. No, listen.
Yeah.
That's not what the discussion's about. Okay, we could have another discussion about that, and I would have lots more ammunition to throw at you to counter that argument. The discussion is about building the ark.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about whether they could have got all those animals in there. We
actually
must really stick to the point.
I was actually
Okay.
Because you need to calculate the weight. So essentially, if you want
Have you done many?
Yeah, actually,
Have you done many debates yourself before, or
no, it's
are
actually,
you quite new to cook? Sorry,
it's my
is it your first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we all have to start somewhere. I mean, don't worry. I mean, my first debate was like, oh, gosh, and I'm still not very good actually. But the debates are very specific. You really must look at the title, and that is what you must stick to that debate on both sides, whether you're pro or con, because we could go off at all sorts of tangents. So and forewarned is forearmed. I mean, so I know I was expecting to have a technical debate about how one could build a ship that big. And I've got my arguments. Well, I think I've given them to you really, but
I give my argument, but you don't seem to be agree of that. I think it's
sorry, but your argument though has no substance. I'm sorry, but it hasn't. You just say things like they could have done it somehow, and it would have floated somehow, and the sea would have been calm somehow. That doesn't do it for me, I'm afraid. I don't think it's going to do it for our viewers either. I hope not, or I'll I don't know what I'll do really. But anyway,
I have given my argument that even if you build a body like that with a lump of wood even, then if we calculate the dimension of the ship, it was the construction was already robust, that it would have rotated 90 degrees and still righted itself. That I've already said. So if we calculate the dimension,
yeah, I'm not getting a lot of what say, but listen, we've got coming up to just over a minute left, so I think it's a little bit late now to sort of if you start saying things which I have to counter, then that's not really fair, because we're going to have to wrap up now. So anyway, I can only wish you good luck in future debates. It's been a pleasure to meet with you and talk with you. If you want to check out my profile and see if there's anything else you want to debate me on, got all sorts of things. But as I say, everything apart from religion, really. So I'll hand over to you to say good night, and I'll bid everyone good night. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Good night, sir. And thanks for debating me on this topic, because I think I should have done my homework pretty well, but I didn't. Well, as I think I have put some of the arguments